Jim, calm down. Calm down. You began a sentence a little while ago with it's not a surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise that rich white men don't care about poor black people, period. So they're not high on their list. They're not high on their list.
George,
they're
I love you, George,
but
that's
I don't
nonsense.
care if you love me or not.
That's
They're
nonsense.
not high on the conscious or the subconscious list of those people who are in charge of things in this country. The owners, forget these foolish elections, the owners of this country don't care about the poor in general.
The owners of this country, what are we going... is this Karl Marx talking to me? The owners of this country are the voters of this country.
You're wrong about that, my friend.
Aren't the owners of this country the voters in this country who elected George Bush?
No, they're not. Listen, politics, these elections are a charade. It is a charade.
Oh, okay.
They are meant to... Well, I'll tell you, just listen for a minute. Learn a little something. The elections and politicians are in place in order to give Americans the illusion that they have freedom of choice. You don't really have choice in this country. The real looting in this country takes place in the transfer of the wealth from the poor to the rich. I'm sorry that you don't like class and the truth, my friend, but you're just stuck with it. Class is class, and the poor have been systematically looted in this country. The rich have been made richer under this criminal, fascist president and his government.
You know, George, I think do you know what fascism is? You know what fascism is?
You know what Nazis are? No, wait, sir, wait, sir. When fascism comes to America, it will not be in brown and black shirts. It will not be with jack boots. It will be Nike sneakers and smiley shirts. Smiley. The fascism... Germany lost the Second World War. Fascism won it. Believe me, my friend.
Fascism is when corporations become the government.
But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back, so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later, because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. And by the way, it's the same big club they use to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Yeah. You know? And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on, the fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
What I suspect is that because rock and roll music reaches so many different people, and it does reach them on a repetitive level, and it does form an important part of their life, if you can control that medium, you are going to be able to control the ideas which go out to those young people. And there are some people who don't want to have young people thinking too much, because you got to keep them really stupid to buy certain products and to vote for certain people. You have the right to...
The unions are the mafia, which is the CIA, which is the Catholic Church, which is the government, which is, what's the difference? It's corrupt. It's the same guys pulling these strings, you know, and one day he pulls a string and poof, this lamp comes out. You know, the next day he pulls a string and there's a missile coming out.
The way I look at it, take a look at the people who have been presidents in the United States so far. Could I do any worse? If I didn't know shit from Shinola, could I do any worse?
If you would compare the President Zappa, what would be the main differences you could work out?
I work more hours, and I'm awake.
At the music industry.
Well, let's talk about the music industry for a moment.
Okay.
The important word here is industry, not music. That's the key word. It's very big, and it's very powerful, and the bigger it gets and the more powerful it gets, the more appealing it becomes to people in government, because they see a vehicle by which they can reach a younger age voter group. And so we have situations like people who want to run for office approaching people who are in the music business to either donate their services for concerts or to endorse candidates. It started to happen during the last bunch of elections, and I'm sure it's going to happen a lot during the next bunch of elections. And every time you see a political figure in the presence of a person from the music business or from television or from the movies, you should smell a rat and get away from it.
I mean, the people who worry about being remembered are guys like Reagan, Bush. These people want to be remembered. And they'll spend a lot of money and do a lot of work to make sure that remembrance is just terrific. I don't care.
To induct Frank Zappa, Lou Reed.
It's very rare in life to know someone who affects things, changes them in a positive way. I've been lucky enough to have known some in my life. Andy Warhol, Doc Pomus, people whose vision and integrity was such that it moved the world a bit. People who, through the articulation of their talents and intelligence, were able to leave things better than they found them. People who were not only not in it for the money, to paraphrase Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa was such a person, and of the many regrets I have in life, not knowing him a lot better is one of them. Whether writing symphonies, satirical broadsides, or casting a caustic glow across the frontier of madness that makes up the American political landscape, whether testifying before Congress to put the PMRC in its rightful lowly place, or acting as a cultural conduit for President Václav Havel and the Czech government, Frank was a force for reason and honesty in a business deficient in these areas. As we reward some with money for the amusement they supply to the cultural mass, I think the induction of Frank Zappa into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame distinguishes the hall as well as the inductee. Musicians usually cannot speak. That's why they communicate through their instruments. But Frank was one who could. And because music is pure, the musician is pure as well. And when Frank spoke, he demonstrated the power of purity. Who will do that now?
Schools train people to be ignorant with style. They give you the equipment that you need to be a functional ignoramus. American schools do not equip you to deal with things like logic. They don't give you the criteria by which to judge between good and bad in any medium or format. And they prepare you to be a usable victim for a military-industrial complex that needs manpower. As long as you're just smart enough to do a job and just dumb enough to swallow what they feed you, you're going to be all right. But if you go beyond that, you're going to have these grave doubts that give you stomach problems, headaches, make you want to go out and do something else. So I believe that schools mechanically and very specifically try and breed out any hint of creative thought in the kids that are coming up.
I have no illusions about these cocksuckers. I know there's 12 guys who run the fucking world, and they own every company, and, you know, it's fact. You can look it up. I'm not a conspiracy nut. This is all on paper. There really are 22 families who run and own 50% of the mainstream media, which is where we get our news. And it's true. It's a fact. You can look it up. I don't, you know, I can't be this big of an asshole without having the truth to back me up. Otherwise, I'd be a fucking nut doing this. But see, if you have the truth with you, you can do this. Gee, I'm starting to sound like Koresh, aren't I? Fuck. People have often said I remind them of Koresh. I'm like Koresh, only without the guns or pussy. So basically, I'm just an annoying fellow, but and frustrated rock guitarist too. But you know, I knew Clinton was in with the big boys when he bombed Iraq. Do you remember that? Two-day news story. Clinton launches 22 cruise missiles on Baghdad in retaliation for the alleged failed assassination attempt against George Bush. We launched 22 $3 million apiece cruise missiles to Baghdad, killing 6 innocent people. I think that was a little overdone. You know? You know what we should have done? We should have embarrassed the Iraqians. We should have assassinated Bush and said, that's how you do it, towelhead. Don't fuck with us. And see, if Bush had been the one who had died, there would have been no loss of innocent life. Yeah, so you see, I mean, that would have saved us $100 million. And I love that, too, how the media called it, everyone in the government media called it a cowardly act on the Iraqians' part, because some Iraqi guy was going to drive a Toyota car bomb and blow himself up in the process of trying to kill the President of the United States, because that's all they can really do, since we are the imperialist rulers of the New World Order. And we call that a cowardly act. Meanwhile, we're launching cruise missiles 200 miles away from floating iron islands. Who are the cowards again? Okay. This is the material, by the way, that has kept me virtually anonymous in America. You know, no one fucking knows me. No one gives a fuck.